All right. We are excited about this juicy topic. The Studleys are this is going to be an epic conversation regarding what men want in marriage, what men want, what the brothers want in marriage.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm super thrilled to be on the call with some awesome men of God who we get to glean from. And we're doing something a little different during this episode. Yes, it's about what men want in a marriage. Or maybe some men they'll educate us a little bit. But as a wife, I'll tell y'all, I'll be transparent. When my husband goes to these man cave outings or he goes to these breakfasts where it's all men, I'm always asking him afterwards, like, babe, what did y'all talk about? And he never tells me. It's like a code of silence. So I thought, like we were talking, I was like, well, babe, it'd be really cool to just be like a fly on the wall and just be able to listen in and really hear some of the honest things y'all talk about. And then maybe I'll come back at the end with a few follow-up questions. So thanks for including me, babe. And welcome, Alan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, we have Alan Conley, Reverend Alan Conley, who has been married to his wife, Tamika Conley, for how long now? How long has it been?
Too long. No, it's 23 years. Almost
23.
all of our lives. Yeah.
Yeah, that number 23 is significant, isn't it?
It's worn by the greatest player to play the game right now, LeBron James.
Yeah, we're not here to talk about that. All right. But some more healthier conversations. What do men need or want in marriage? What do men need or want in marriage? Very important. And so we're going to kick it off, and we're going to have an honest deep dive, an honest conversation about what men desire and need in marriage. So this is for single folks, but it's also for married people too. So we're not just excluding a certain group of people. We are including everyone. All right. So I can go ahead and kick it off, Rev. So one of the things, and I have a lot of different points here, so I won't perhaps be able to give all of it. But when I think about marriage and relationships, I am thinking about how it's such a it's so effective when the two become one, right? The two become one, and you have this great union. But oftentimes we don't necessarily see eye to eye on different situations and things that come up. However, one of the things that I do believe that men want, and this is very general, but I believe that the issue of respect, being able to have respect from your wife, your significant other, is a very important, and I would venture to say, a number one issue, a number one thing that men would want in a relationship. Because without respect, you really don't have much. I think late Bishop Brazier mentioned, he said he'd rather be respected than loved. And so that's my one of my points. So I just wanted to throw that out there. What is some of the things that you believe?
Well, no. First of all, I have to say kudos to you, because every brother should treasure you as a friend and as a brother, because your wife told what you do when you leave the man cave after you've been with the fellas. She says she looks for you to tell her what happened, and she says you hold on to that code of silence. So that should be refreshing to the ears of every brother out there, to know that you got a brother in Trae who understands that what's said in the cave is going to stay in the cave. So I have to put that out there, because it is refreshing for brothers to be able to have a space where they can talk, where they can vent, because to what you just said, as it relates to what the late Bishop Arthur Brazier said, as it relates to being respected over loved, that is something that some men may not have known how to articulate until they heard Bishop Brazier, or till now, until they hear you and I speak about this notion of respect and love. I was going to say respect versus love, but the reality is that it's just a play on words, because love, the semantics of it and the connotation of love to a woman, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a whole lot different than how a man views love. I heard Bishop Jake say once that when he grew up as a kid, he played with the army toys and the type of toys that boys played with back in his day, where and probably you and I day, right? I remember growing up playing with wrestling figures and Hulk Hogan, right? And before I knew better, and playing with all these other toys that was violent, but that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Young girls grow up playing with dolls and doll houses, and they're learning how to cook because they have this vision of what motherhood and wifehood is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so they play with those type of toys. And so then now when they become full adults, and you have this boy who's been playing with army figures and wrestling figures, and he's been fighting since a kid with his figurines, paired up with a young lady who's been playing with dolls, learning how to comb their hair, braid their hair, and all of these things. Now all of a sudden, there's this conversation about what love is.
Mm-hmm.
And the wife who's used to the lovey-dovey with the dolls and the coddling and cuddling. The fella, he ain't used to that. But that's what she wants, because she's been all her life, she's been playing with the toys. And when Ken and Barbie hooked up, now, you know, Ken has his loving arms wrapped around Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
But the fella, he ain't played with toys where he's wrapping loving arms around the other dog.
Right. Right.
So it's like, okay, he's not used to that. So she's now taking on a learning curve where she's now has to understand that the love language, for her spouse or her significant other, now has to be learned. It's something that she's going to have to learn, and there may be some things that we have to unlearn. And when it comes to respect, though, for that male figure, now it's the same thing, where he has to understand not so much his significant other or his spouse. He now has to understand himself and understand that, wow, all this time I've been a fighter, not a
Mm-hmm.
lover.
Mm-hmm.
And we hear that saying in movies all the time, with somebody, they get into it with somebody, they say, I'm a lover, not a fighter, right?
Right. Right. Right.
But really, it's the other way around. Most brothers have been fighters, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily lovers. Not saying that we don't love, but we love in a way that we've been conditioned to love based upon
Mm-hmm.
society, what we see in the media, and sometimes it is frowned upon, right? For men to be sensitive, for men to show
Mm-hmm.
emotion, and
Mm-hmm.
then we label women, and women have to work harder because misogynistic men will say, women are more emotional than men. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not the case. I think
Right.
sometimes men can be more emotional, but at any rate, when it comes to respect, it's a play on the word. So what love looks like for a woman may not look the same for a man, but what it sounds like to a man is the way I like to say it, Trae. It sounds like the word respect. That's what love sounds like. What it looks like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not, I don't think it's fair to say or generalize what it looks like for every brother,
Mm-hmm.
but I think every brother will unanimously say that it certainly sounds like respect.
Yes. Most definitely. Most definitely. Very good illustration. When it comes to the condition and how we've been conditioned two different ways growing up, and now we have to come together under one roof as one.
Yep.
And
A lover and a fighter.
right, right. That will preach. Yeah, go ahead.
No.
Okay. So some other things that men we desire and what we want, or what we need. And I have, like I said, I mentioned earlier, I have my list, things that I've like just compilated or compiled, I should say, compiled. And so, but you may have, something else. But let me just give this one. When it comes to the finances, when it comes to the finances, we tend, generally speaking, you have men who are perhaps more, and like I said, generally speaking, perhaps a little bit more in tune with the finances. Not more than the women, but really in tune with finances. And I would venture to say perhaps that's where we need to, when it comes to that, um, it has to be, we need to know that we can trust our significant other, our spouses, when it comes to finances. We need to be able to trust them.
You're not gonna get me in trouble with that one, Trae. So listen, I tell people you gotta understand who is better with money.
Yes,
Because it's not always the case that the man is better with money. And I
that's
tell
true.
you, in my household, listen, my wife is she is as frugal as they come. And if I'm looking to save money and not blow money, I gotta go to my wife. I gotta give it like,
Mhm.
listen, I gotta give you this because I know she can handle it. My wife is probably one of the most brilliant people when it comes to, stretching a dollar. And it's just the grace of God that we've been blessed to have more than a dollar to manage. But I tell you, I know it's in good hands when it's in our hands. But I think that in relationships, the substratum base of what you're getting at is how finances can put a strain on a relationship if it's
Yes.
not managed accurately. And so I think that it's the same way as it comes to loving. What does love look like? Learning those love languages. The
Hmm.
same thing has to be when it comes to learning the giftedness of one another, because you got two people coming together with two different gifts, two different skill sets. You
Right.
know, and the brother got to be honest with himself too, Trae.
Right.
Bro, we got to be honest with ourselves. If I know I went through school, I went through grammar school, high school, and barely escaped college. And when it came to arithmetic, I averaged a D. I was barely passing, but now all of a sudden now I'm married and I want to make sure I'm in control of all the money. No, bro. Listen, if you know you've been struggling all your life in that area, then but your wife, on the other hand, is able to, make $100 out of 15 cents.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to cherish that and allow her to manage it. So it's just really about understanding each other's giftedness and
Hmm.
and being humble enough, right, to say it ain't me.
Right.
Babe, it's you. I need you to do it because I don't
Put
have.
that pride aside.
Yeah, yeah.
Most definitely. Yeah. Putting that pride aside. That's something I definitely we have to do. Um, but when it comes to also value, when it comes to when we first get with our spouses, first date them, we tend to put a lot of our things aside for the most part, and pursue we enter into their world, enter into the world of our ladies. And so but when it comes to when it comes to how how do we fit into this relationship, because we clearly know, hey, this is my wife, or this is my lady, this is the one who I cherish and all that. I value her because I'm spending time with her. Oftentimes, sometimes I think our value is maybe put to the side, maybe in some situations. Um, One of the things I believe, and this is just of course, my view, that a man wants to feel valued.
Yeah.
Wants to feel valued. I mean, we all, I'm sure, do, but a man wants to feel valued.
You want to
And one
feel
of the,
like the
yeah,
man.
go ahead.
No, you want to feel like the man.
Right.
You belong to your spouse. And as the man, most of us, when we come home, I heard someone say once, and you're a preacher, but it's sometimes there's this adrenaline, right? That men go through. If you're doing something that's worthy of applause in society,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what it is, whether it's your job, you're a preacher, you're an athlete, an entertainer, or whatever, but you have people who look up to you and they value you, using that word value, and value looks a certain way. It feels a certain
Mm-hmm.
way to a brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody is cheering you on, shouting your name out, man, go Trae, man, you did it,
Mm-hmm.
Trae, and they clapping their hands, patting you on the back, and then all of a sudden you get home and you just left the clapping crowd, and now you at home to uh an antagonistic spouse.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like that right there will send a man to a whole nother planet,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
and it's, we can joke about it, but the reality is, if and many of our friends, if you had any friends where there was some tension in the relationship, and when we talk with our brothers and they share with us that, using that word value, like, I feel like my wife doesn't value me, what ends up happening? They're going to go back to that applauding crowd. they're going to
Yep.
they're going to go back to where it was that they was getting that affirmation, where it
Yep.
was they were getting the celebration, and now it opens up a door for a whole nother wave of problems and concerns.
Mm-hmm.
And then that marriage now is on the brink of not surviving, mainly because now certainly there's other layers to it, where there
Oh,
could,
yeah.
communication probably was at the hem. The brother didn't know how to express it, like, hey, or if the brother does express it and say, you gonna do all this nagging, and
Mm-hmm.
and Crystal, and then don't let them start naming names of females that his
Oh,
wife.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Crystal
yeah.
and them, they were clapping, and look at this. Sheila gave me a card.
Right.
And then the spouse, she say, well, then you need to go back to Sheila, go back to
Right. You know
Crystal.
you're gonna hear that.
Yeah. But not realizing that they planting the seed. Like, man,
Right.
they really
Mm-hmm.
are cheering me on. So that value is key though. A brother wants to feel like he's the man. That's what ego is, right? I tell brothers, if you want to put your ego into something, you got a big ego, put it into that marriage. Put it into the house where you're like, man, I want to make sure that when I get home, my wife knows I'm the man. So I do what I need to do outside of the house. So
Right.
that way, when I get back to the house, that I got not just people on my job cheering me on, but I got someone in my house that's cheering me on.
Mm-hmm.
But that brother got to make sure though that they taking care of business out there, so that wife can value them. Now, the other challenge to that, Trae, is sometimes that brother wants to be valued, and this is what's key. They want to be valued even when it looks like they're not being valued in society.
Mm.
So there's one
Yeah.
thing to say that you got somebody clapping, cheering you on when you at the gig, but
Mm-hmm.
it's another when that brother don't have a gig, right?
Right.
He's struggling. I think the last statistic I read, like one out of every two black men are unemployed. It may be a little it may have shifted a little bit, but nonetheless, for black men, it's hard. So you don't want to go through that in society where you're struggling. It's a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But then to get home, and then now all of a sudden you have a spouse who doesn't even recognize that you're struggling. And now it becomes challenging because she needs to figure out, how do I still show that he's valued?
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that, brother. Sometimes, man, I feel like I can conquer the world if I feel like I've been a failure. I feel like I've been a failure. Like, I messed up at work.
Mm-hmm.
Something didn't go the way I envisioned it going. But if my wife, when she tells me it's all right, they're gonna realize that they the ones that messed up, not you.
Right. Right.
Now your ego is back on 10. Like, man, that's all right.
Exactly.
My boo told me that I'm gonna do the doggone thing. So you end
Right.
up feeling better. But being valued is important for a brother.
Oh yeah. So what you're saying, summarize the whole thing. A brother don't want to be slapped with a bunch of humble pie every single night by his lady. he wants for his lady to stroke his ego and feel like, hey, he is the man when he's at home.
Yeah. But for that brother too, like if she's stroking his ego and now he ain't getting up looking for a job, he's not trying to do better, right? That's only gonna last for so long.
Right.
But that's why I spoke for those brothers like yourself and others that we know who are doing the best that they know to do. They've accomplished something major in society, working every day to take care of home. But to come home from that clapping crowd to a nagging spouse, that's gonna
Yeah.
send that brother back out on the street.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Where he is valued. He is valued, absolutely. No doubt. So what are some other things then that we can share with the audience, with the people, things that you feel like men desire or want or need in a marriage and a relationship?
Yeah, I would say, pulling a page out of Steve Covey's book where he talks about how we should seek first to understand and not to be understood. Men are already sometimes misunderstood, right? So if you're already misunderstood, you don't want to be in a relationship where your significant other doesn't even understand you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is challenging for men to express how they feel all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that women really need to understand that brothers are not going to be as expressive, right? They're not going to show the emotion that you want all the time. There may be
Right.
times where you get a glimpse of it, but brothers, for the most part, they're just not going to do it. We fighters.
Right.
We
Right.
fighters, and so understanding that brother underneath all of that fight, underneath that sword, underneath the shield, underneath that helmet,
Mm-hmm.
underneath all of that protective wear that he's wearing, because most of us, that fight that we have, that was our armor anyway.
Yes.
We had to learn
Mm-hmm.
how that's the first thing sometimes boys learn to do. Before we learn how to do anything else, we learn how to fight. Throw a
True
punch.
that.
Right? You
Mm-hmm.
just like, hey, he may get one lick in, but I'm gonna make sure that they're gonna say that I fought, right? I'm gonna leave my
Right.
mark. But now you're in a marriage where it's like we got to learn how to fight another way.
Right.
And that's the struggle for men. And so I think that understanding that brother, he is a fighter. He's just trying to learn how to fight another way, because now when you start fighting for your marriage, I don't fight for my marriage with hands. Now I'm learning how to fight with my marriage with intellect. I learn how to fight with my marriage with wisdom, knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding,
Right.
listening to brothers like yourself, and being around people. Right now I got to change my surroundings, because I was around, if you grew up, a brother who grew up in the hood, where what he was exposed to was street life, or people
Mm-hmm.
who didn't value monogamous relationships. They come from a household where they didn't see a male figure, a man. I don't even say a male figure, but a man who valued family. I grew up in a household, Trae, where my granddad, you made me think about this when you asked the question about the finances, but my grandfather, he worked like 2 jobs for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched him when he would come home, he gave all his money to my grandmother. My grandmother never worked a day in her life, not a job,
Wow.
never had a job. She didn't, my grandmother never had a driver's license,
Okay.
right? That's what I was exposed to. Now, I'm educated though, Trae. The streets of the hard knocks and in the universities. And so I knew better now. This is a different day where
Yes, it
I
is.
got an educated wife who's gone to school. She's a business owner now. And so for me to expect my wife to be the stay-home uh, mother or whatever, like my grandmother was, that wasn't going to happen. But I
Right.
knew that going into the marriage.
Right.
So it's all about exposure. I was exposed to those. I was exposed to a relationship where the wife worked and the husband worked, but I also saw my grandfather and my grandmother's relationship, but
Hmm.
understanding the generational differences.
Right.
In this day and age, you get for Black men in particular, Black men are dealing with a whole lot more today than we were dealing with 20 years ago. Some would say, no, it's about the same. No, I think it's different
Hmm.
because a lot of the subliminal aspects of racism where it's not as blatant. Now
Hmm.
they trying to bring it back where it becomes more blatant, but it's subtle and you don't see it. So that brother now, when he's dealing with these issues in society,
Hmm.
and he's now in a relationship, he's trying to make sure that what he's experiencing in life in society, that he's not going to experience it in that marriage. For me,
Right.
my marriage it should be my safe space. It is my
Right.
safe space when I share what's going on with my wife. You know, my wife, she's gonna listen, and even at times when I know it's like she's listening, and it's like man, I can't do nothing about it, but she's listening nonetheless.
Right.
And that's all we want. And then likewise, we turn the favor over to our wives because sometimes they get to talking about what they experiencing with their girlfriends, and we sitting up saying, that's because y'all women. That's because y'all women. That's why y'all going through that. But
Hmm.
at any rate, it's really, I would say that know that that brother is just looking to be understood,
Yeah.
and he doesn't have all of the tools or the capacity to express himself the way that he really want to express himself because he just really don't know how.
So it sounds to me that you also to put that all together. He wants to be understood, but he also wants we want um not or to have peace in our home, you know, to have peace also, when we come home to have peace is like our sanctuary,
Yeah.
almost really. Um and from what I hear, you're saying to be understood, to have peace, and to make sure that we know that our spouses or our wives are in our corner per se.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of what I'm hearing you say. And we also want to be valued, want to
Yeah.
be valued as well, knowing that we're not just someone who just go and make the donuts and then we come on bring on the check, but we also want to be like you know our wives to be our biggest cheerleader.
That's the best. When you use the analogy of a corner, that is
Hmm.
probably the best illustration for this because a brother as a fighter, imagine he in the ring and he fighting round after round,
Right.
getting hit, knocked down, not knocked out,
Hmm.
but he keeps getting knocked down. When you go back to the corner, that's your place of reprieve. That's where you're trying to get. Sometimes you need resuscitation. You
Right.
have dead,
Right. Right.
and here it is. You asking, you in the corner, you begging for CPR.
Right.
You begging for CPR for somebody to speak life and to put breath, air back in you. But then you got a spouse that's smothering you with a pillow over your face
Hmm.
in the corner. That is, man, you talking about, you know, that brother, he it's only so long that it's gonna last. Uh
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the best illustration. We want somebody in our corner that's there to help us, to revive us, to resuscitate us.
Mm-hmm.
Give us what we need so we can get back out and fight again for another.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. And so when we talk about those things, because we've given some and we've talked about thus far a lot of different um traits or a lot of different things that we desire. That a man is not just, I mean, I would like to think we're simple, but it really depends on the man, depends on the individual. It's not just one or two things that we desire and then that's it, leave us alone. But we communicate differently. We communicate differently. So it seems like you're saying also that we need patience.
My God.
We want patience from our spouses on how we communicate. We don't communicate the same way that our wives communicate. So we want patience. We need patience from our spouses.
My. The Bible say, let patience have her perfect work.
Yes.
I believe that. I think James was talking about a wife. We listen. You hit the nail right on the head. We move in such a way. Now, I will say it depends on the giftedness, right? Every brother has a different set of gifts,
Right.
and so I'll just use me. My mind. I'm a creative, so I'm always thinking of something to do, somewhere to go, somewhere to be, somewhere, some other country, some other city.
Mm-hmm.
And then my wife, sometimes she'll say, why? I don't always have the answer to why.
Right.
We sometimes, because we're so sensory focused, right? Our eyes, we see something and it's like, man, that was the bomb. And like now all of a sudden I want to try it. I want that car.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
remember playing that game, riding the school bus, and we see a car go past, a Corvette go, that's me. That's me. In other
Right.
words, somebody would say, that's what I want. That's really what we're saying. But because we saw it with our eyes and we began to envision ourselves in that vehicle or in that
Mm-hmm.
location, whatever it is. But when your spouse understands and knows that like you're not going to have all the answers right away, right? You don't really, and even if you did have the answer, you really don't know how to articulate it.
Right.
Why did you stop somewhere? Like I know some brothers have told me before, sometimes like before they go home, they have to stop because they're going through so much at home where it's
Mm-hmm.
like before I go home, they gotta go and charge up somewhere else, like the Tesla,
Yeah.
and find a charging station. Then they go home. And so, but the wife now, the danger in that brother is coming home now charged. Now he didn't do anything wrong. He just probably
Right.
went to somewhere to get something to eat. He stopped by his buddy's house or whatever. But now he gets home, he's charged up, and the wife now is thinking like, man, every day he's coming home. He's just, I like the way his demeanor is when he comes home.
Mm-hmm.
Now the word everybody using now is demure. Like he's so demure when he comes home. Like, no, little do you know, he's got to stop and recharge. What do you
Decompress.
to decompress, right?
Yes.
But think about it if he didn't have to do that. You home is where he should be. He should be able to come straight home and decompress.
Mm-hmm.
But you sleepless in Seattle when you got to leave home to decompress.
Yes.
That's a bad place to be in. So yeah, I just think that, a brother, if he's if the spouse understands, if his wife understands that he's not going to be able to articulate all the time how he feels,
Right.
learning that love language, because that communication with him now, it could be that the affirmation, the words of affirmation,
Yes.
it may be uh uh gifts, right?
Right.
You give him something, right? So he's used to, or he may not be used to it, right? No one's given him anything. He's never been given anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything he's gotten in life, he had to earn it. He had to fight for it.
Work and fight. Yep.
Yeah. But now all of a sudden, he's like, I just want something where I didn't have to fight for.
Right.
Why does a brother have to fight to be valued?
Mm. That's
like to
good.
be respected. I don't think
It should
that
come automatically.
it should. but, but the reality is it don't happen, right? With being real. But it should, at some point though. Hopefully, after some communication, learning how to communicate the right way, and understanding one another. Because at the end of the day, if you understand that brother and you get to that place where you know that he's not going to articulate, it's not going to happen, then now I have to be creative and figure out then how do I get him to talk, to share. Because I think some sisters, they really want to know. They want to know how we feel. And then sometimes they want us to feel how they feel.
Right.
And that becomes a challenge, because it's like, I know how you felt about little Roro, but I don't feel the same, right? But they want to see you say, why you ain't crying? Why you not bawling?
Right.
Because I knew Roro had it coming.
Right. Right.
But you can't say that. But because if you say it, then now you're insensitive.
Yeah.
You're out of touch. But the reality is that our emotions are not attached to things and to people the same way that women tend to attach to people. So, yeah.
All right. So this has been a really good discussion, and a deep dive into some of the things that we desire, some of the things that we need, things that we need to, and we hit on a lot of different points: being valued, respected. We have to be able to trust our spouses,
Trust that corner.
trust that corner, and have peace in our relationship, but also be patient. To have patience with us and how we communicate. Yeah, very important.
Yeah,
Very important. Being patient. So now we're going to bring on Roz. Bring Roz back on. Okay, she's back. It's rare that she gets to listen to a conversation, because I'm telling you, when I talk with brothers, we don't, my wife and I don't have pillow talk about these things. So yeah.
Well, first, thank you both for allowing me to truly participate in this conversation on behalf of all the wives in America and beyond. It was really good to hear both of you all's perspective, and I thought you brought out some really good points. And what I want to share is, I feel like it doesn't matter how long you've been married or if you aren't married. The reality is, I don't think that when we were thinking about what marriage would look like for us, that we were taught, hey, think about your husband to be and the fight that he's gone through, or think about that he really needs to feel valued. Like, I wish somebody would have just had a straight up conversation with me as a single woman, or as a young lady, or as a young girl, to start to be taught those principles. So ladies, if you aren't already, this is a great time to start training up those young women who are one day going to be married, and they can have a step ahead of our generation, for those of us who maybe weren't taught that or even had that really modeled before us. So I appreciate you all bringing that out. I'm like really shocked y'all weren't taught to cuddle, because I'm a cuddler. So now I understand, babe, why you cuddling is something that you embrace. But
No.
Hey, even if that brother was, it's like we not gonna tell the other brothers, like, man, I just like to go home and cuddle.
Exactly. No.
I can't wait to get home to cuddle with my wife.
Right.
I appreciate it. I'm glad learn something new all the time. And then I think just a couple other things that stood out to me was just talking about learning and unlearning some of our skill sets, and maybe the way we operate in our mindsets, how we can be set in certain ways, but there's always opportunities to learn and unlearn. And then learning the giftedness of one another. I thought that was a really amazing point when Trae was talking about finances and who's gifted in what area, as well as just being able to stroke an ego and reaffirm that value. I know that unfortunately you've heard. What did you say, babe?
Oh no, go ahead.
Unfortunately, we've heard, maybe sometimes when men step out on a marriage, I know I'm just being transparent that sometimes that's just a fear. Why does a man step out of a relationship with his wife? And, ultimately it's something he's looking for. It's something that is a need that has now driven him away from the person that should be his safe space, his corner, that place of decompression, to someone else who's stroking his ego or telling him something he wants to hear or making him feel valued. So that need is going to get met. It's just a matter of if it's going to get met from me, your wife, or if it's going to be met from someone else. So I appreciate those points you all brought out. Thank you.
It's
No problem.
good to have you.
Yes, absolutely. We wanted to have as honest of a conversation as possible. We understand that this is something that is it's education. Education extends beyond a classroom, and so we learn about our wives, and you all have an opportunity to learn more about us, and so it's good.
And it ain't gonna happen overnight.
That's right. This is true. This is true. All right. So we appreciate the Reverend ABC.
Reverend
being
Dr.
with us.
ABC in the house.
We appreciate Brother Conley being with us, and really sharing his thoughts, really from a man's perspective, I should say, a man's perspective on what we need and what we desire in a marriage and in a relationship with our spouses, because it's very important, and we hit on a lot of great points. So we appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. How can people follow you as well, Alan?
Well, so I'm I'm multifaceted, so I have just about all of the social media handles that's out there: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. But Alan B. Conley on Facebook, alan.b.conley. You'll find me, and then Instagram, Al_Conley, and I'm sure you'll find me elsewhere. So yeah.
Great. We appreciate you, brother.
No, I appreciate you. I love you guys, and I'm
love
happy
you
to
too.
know you all. And the world is a better place because of the Studleys, and so I'm just glad to know you guys.
We appreciate you, my friend. Yes, absolutely. Well, there is another episode of Keep the Fire Burning podcast about what men want in a relationship. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. God bless you.
Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you all soon. Thank you for participating.